Greetings and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Run, and today we're playing as Azazel. Azazel is usually a pretty easy character. Well, today is no exception, but today is a very special day. It's Monday, and if you don't know, every single Monday we have a hard mode run instead of an easy mode run. Considering there's only one in 7 days, or that every 7 daily I guess, is a hard mode run, it's quite ironic because this is supposed to be a competitive format, so it would make sense that most runs would be hard, but then again there are some achievements which people have to complete, and I guess it makes more sense for the casual player for dailies to be easy because it's more inviting as well, but then again, I feel like it would be okay if there were more hard mode runs, but having once a week is still something we have, and it's just what it is, and we have to deal with it, with what we have. And as Azazel, I feel like you really struggle in hard mode more than you do in easy mode, just because there's so many more enemies which have more HP, I mean champion variants, and a lot of champion variants just aren't very nice to you if you get up close and personal with them, because there's some champion variants which just shoot at you when you're close to them, there are some which explode, which is obviously not nice, and there are some which suck you up close to them, and when you get close to them, that pulling effect is stronger, and sometimes it's actually hard or even impossible to dodge. Besides those champion variants, you also have these dumb mushrooms, and these dumb mushrooms have so much HP, and there's nothing more frustrating like having to kill 3 of them, waiting for one to actually die, charging up your brimstone and just shooting it again, and then doing it for the 3rd time. And once you finally think you're done, you get 3 more, and then you think you're done, and then you get 2 more. And they just have so much HP, it's ridiculous. I feel like their HP is a bit too high. Sure, they're very easy to dodge and actually deal with, but it's annoying when you have to wait for them and just charge up, and when the other one shoots, you have to move out of the way, which means you can't really fully charge your brimstone, and then you're not dealing enough damage, and then you have to do it again, and it's just not something that I really enjoy, and I feel like that's a problem with Azazel in general. You have to be more patient sometimes, then you have to be good. I know that's maybe a very vivid statement to make, but I really like it when Azazel is that in a rhythmic mode. When you charge up your shot, you go in, you kill an enemy, you charge up your shot, you go in, you kill another enemy, or maybe you kill multiple enemies. That's very satisfying. But as soon as you lose that rhythm, when you have to wait, you have to be patient and actually kill an enemy that's just there because he has a lot of HP. Obviously, I'm not talking about bosses, but just regular enemies here. It becomes tedious and it becomes annoying, and it's just something that I wish could have been patched somehow out. The fact that you know there's an opening, but you can't get close to it because there's too high of a chance for you to actually get hit, is a frustrating concept, but then again, we do have flight as in return, and we have black hearts, which obviously kill enemies if you get hit, and maybe if a room is too difficult, so there's nothing really to complain there. I'm not saying that if I lose, it's character's fault because he doesn't have enough range. It's still my fault for being bad, but I'm just making an observation here. So at this point, the run is going pretty well. You saw that we have the soul, which repels bullets, which is great on just any character, but I feel as Azazel especially because you have to get it in close and personal, and when you're actually closer to the bullets, the magnetic effect repelling is much stronger, which means that there's actually less chance for you to get hit. Magic Mush is obviously an amazing item, and we get Depression, which is slowly becoming one of my favorite items, and not only because I can relate to it, but also because it's just a very flavorful item, and I really like items which are in tandem with what they represent. So for example, if the Aquarius item, which I feel does a very similar effect, when you walk you leave a trail of water on the ground which damages enemies, and that's a good item, nothing against it, but I feel like it isn't too flavorful. What is making Isaac pee the floor and just leaving the water everywhere, and why is it damaging enemies? It doesn't make a lot of sense, but when you have a nice little cloud following you, it makes a lot of sense where the water is coming from, it's a cloud. And when you actually interact with enemies, there's a chance for the holy light shot to spawn, and I think that's just an additional effect that I feel like every item shouldn't be one-dimensional. It shouldn't do just one thing. There should be a chance for it to do another thing, and Depression does that because it has a chance to deal AoE damage, it has a chance of actually killing enemies on the floor, and it can also hit enemies which are flying if you actually can get in contact with them. And for that reason, I think it's a really cool item. It's not overpowered, obviously, but it's just very nice to actually use and deal with and things like that. Okay, so we are at a point of the run where I feel like I should talk about what happens next. And we have the cracked dice and the Ivy bag, and if you haven't been following, essentially what happened is I got a teleport 2.0, I used it on the previous floor, I got an error room with 4 trinkets, and one of them was cracked dice. I decided to pick it up. At the start of the floor, I left the cracked dice on the ground because you don't want the effect of cracked dice to actually use up accidentally, so if you get hit, you usually want the effect when you want it, so you want to trigger it yourself. And if you don't know what cracked dice does, essentially every time you get hit, there's a chance that a random dice effect will happen. I think that dice effects are a chance to reroll consumables, a chance to reroll items, a chance to reroll rocks, and a chance to reroll stats. And of course, if you just have that on yourself, what can happen is consumables can get rerolled, you might lose a key, you might lose a lot of stats and then just deal no damage or have no range or something like that. It's something that you want to kind of control, and for that reason I just dropped it out in the first floor. In the second floor, I mean not the second floor, in 2 rooms next to it, I found an arcade, and in the arcade I found the Ivy bag, and that's the 2-item combination which breaks the game and just does it very spectacularly. It's one of the most annoying things to do if you want to break the game, because what you have to do every time you use the Ivy bag, when you have the cracked dice, you get a few coins, and when the few coins are on the ground, you kind of use the Ivy bag again to reroll those coins into hopefully chests or red health or spirit hearts. Once the red health, you can pick up the red health to actually reroll more coins and just generate more coins, and then just keep doing that until eventually you get a bunch of chests. You open the chest, you get more consumables, and you keep rerolling until eventually, in this case, I get a teleport card. I use the teleport card to actually get out of boss rush, deal with the room, and then in the next room I start breaking the game again. So I just do the same combo, use the Ivy bag until eventually I get an AWAS rune, and an AWAS rune allows me to go 1 floor further. Even though this run only went to Mom, if you find an AWAS rune or if you find a shovel, you can use those to actually get further than your initial objective. And in this case I did break the game for like 10 minutes until eventually I found the AWAS rune, and it allowed me to go to Womb 1. And now the plan is to actually do that 2 more times. I picked up Room Bag just to hopefully save me the hassle, and I think I get 1 AWAS rune and then I have to break for the other one. But essentially this combo is a very, very intuitive one, you know. You use the item, you get stuff, you use the item more, you get more stuff, and essentially as you keep doing that, the game is over at that point, and you just get a bunch of points for picking up consumables, you get AWAS runes, you get exploration bonus, and also you get a bunch of items. And so this breaking really works for multiple things, getting a lot of points and just getting really strong really early on. And it's one of those combinations that you don't see often, because it's quite rare to actually find both a trinket and an active item at the same time, because you usually have to make sacrifices and leave one behind or the other. And Ivy Bag sure is good on its own, but Cracked Dice isn't really. It's in some situations, it is in some situations if you actually find an item to damage yourself, because using bombs on dailies isn't very advisable, because every bomb that actually damages you also hits you inflicts damage penalty, which means that your overall score is lower. So you really need an item like the Dull Razor maybe, or just the Razor Blade, or maybe Blood Rights even, or just find an arcade. And obviously that's not something you can reliably rely on, so you would usually use a trinket that has a guaranteed effect. But once we have this combo, there's a few things to actually remember and consider. First of all, you can get the tick as you're rerolling the items. And when you get a tick, obviously that takes up your trinket slot, and then you can pick up the cracked dice again, and that's quite problematic. The second you have to be wary of, there's a lot of items which drop, and some of them can have very negative effects. Like in my case, what happened is I got the little baggie, I think it's called the little baggie. Essentially it transforms every single card and rune into a pill, and that's something that you don't want happening, because you need runes and cards, because runes, obviously the AWAS rune, it allows you to go forward, and obviously the cards allow you to just get a lot more consumables. So what I did, ended up rerolling the items until eventually I got a D4. I used the D4 once and I got this weird combo of items which somehow worked, wasn't very strong, but at least it got the job done. But thankfully that reroll did get rid of the little baggie, which means that I then rerolled again until eventually got an AWAS rune. But overall, you don't want to pick up too many items, because the more items you pick up, the higher is your item penalty, which means your overall score will be lower. So for that reason, you kind of need to watch out as you're walking, but also every time you reroll, there's a chance that a troll bomb will spawn, which obviously also has a chance of damaging you, but it can knock you out in an item which you maybe don't want to pick up. So that's quite a tricky one. So because you kind of have to watch out for all of these things and minute details, you really have to be focused. And when you have so much things on the screen, I don't really like the extended view. I use it mostly to show you what's going on, but just because there's so many things on the screen, it's hard to deal with, and you're gonna make a mistake eventually, you're gonna get hit, and for that reason it's probably one of the most tedious ways to actually break the game, but it works. The most important part here is obviously the fact that we can go deeper and just get a lot more in exploration bonus, as well as actually beating the bosses and getting points for that. You can see that at this point we're approaching 1 hour mark, and of course that's mainly the reason because to actually get started, first of all, you need a few coins in the ground, then you actually need to reroll the coins into some chests, and when that happens, that can take quite some time. And you can see that here I was trying to get for maximum consumable bonus, which is around 16,000, but it didn't really work out, because I got hit way too much, there were too many troll bombs, which knocked me around into items, and when you pick up an item, the item penalty is quite high at this point. You can see that my item penalty was 2,000, which is like twice as many as I usually get. Our damage penalty was pretty high as well. Obviously, our time penalty was absurd, but that's also because the run took an hour and 20 minutes. I wasn't really there to show you exactly how to do it. I think it would be boring if I showed you every single reroll, but we did finish in 30 seconds, and I think on Greedbot that was 5th, which again is very frustrating because I want a top 3 score for crying out loud. But of course, I did miss some exploration bonus because I was rushing early on. It wasn't that strong of a run early, and of course I could have gotten much more points if I actually used that combo to get more powerful, but I didn't because I was late and there wasn't really time. Our strike bonus is obviously very high, 14,000. It could have been a bit higher if I actually did have some more patience, but I didn't, and I just stopped there. And overall, a very good run, a very basic one, I would say, at least in the breaking department. Nothing really too spectacular happened. It was more about knowing that these two items work well together and then knowing how to use them. And that is all for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next time.